Hey everyone, this is Friedel Hacker Arrive, and I'm here with my recap and review of Snowpiercer season number 3, episode number 1, which is titled The Tortoise and the Hare, I guess. And yeah, I'm not I'm not feeling well. So if I end up coughing or sneezing, I apologize. But anyway, coming back to the episode, it opens up with a 6 month later jump. Now, in the previous season, we saw that there were certain data points which showed inklings of higher temperatures. And basically, Layton and his crew are trying to find a place where humanity can restart again on the ground and outside the drains. And yeah, it's been 6 months, and I guess they still haven't figured out where they can start their community again. So the Snowpiercer is still going on. It's quite fast, and I guess a month or two behind them basically is Big Alice. And this is, talking about these two trains, that's where Layton is like, you know what, it's like the tortoise and the hare. And I'm like, did the tortoise win in the end, Layton? But anyway, Uncle Wilford. I was going to call him Uncle Wilford. But yeah, Joseph is all about catching up with Snowpiercer. He doesn't really care what's actually happening to the community inside the train. Apparently, he still hasn't let go of the first class carriages. But yeah, he's after them and he's chasing them. And poor Harvey, poor Harvey. It turns out that he's still alive, but Joseph ended up doing a psychological number on him, which he does. That's something that Joseph knows how to do. And Harvey's the one running the train, and uh, Joseph's dog is still there, basically using the dog in order to keep Harvey in line. I feel for Harvey, I do. So it turns out that even though it's been 6 months and Big Alice is still after Snowpiercer, the resistance is still going strong. Well, not necessarily strong, but it still exists. It still exists. So the teacher is still on Big Alice, and she's singing a song for the kids. The kids are there. I guess they're using the clinic as one of the classrooms. And the doctor comes in, and this is where the doctor wants to talk to, I think her name is Winnipeg, or Winnie, the little girl, who keeps on running and delivering messages. So there's a message for her to deliver to the resistance. And yeah, she runs through the night car, and apparently LJ is working there as a bartender, while Oz plays the piano and he cleans up. So she ends up relaying the message to Pike, and basically the message is about Snowpiercer's whereabouts. And yeah, it turns out that the leader or the head of the resistance is basically Ruth. She's the one who's been tracking Snowpiercer's movements, and yeah, she's like, this has been like 32 or 38 days. It's been 38 days, and now we finally found out that, yeah, the Snowpiercer is still alive, the crew inside are still alive, so the resistance is still going on, and Pike is apparently her second in command. And these two also talk about whether or not Layton will be back. And Ruth is like, you know what? Melanie is there with her. Yeah, Ruth is very, very hopeful about Melanie still being alive, and I'm too. I'm hopeful too. So she's like, Layton will be back because that's who Layton is. The moment he finds somewhere where humanity can restart again, he'll be back. And Pike is like, yeah, okay. And Ruth is like, you know what? Don't be like that. If you didn't believe the cause, you wouldn't be here either, right? So yeah, Pike still believes, and she ends up handing some antibiotics for the seamstresses. And yeah, Ruth, because she has been head of hospitality, and that's just part of her nature, she's a leader who is also trying to take care of her people as much as she can. So it's not. I think they end up stopping in North Korea. Correct me if I'm wrong. So Ben decides to go out in order to collect samples, and yeah, he has to track quite far from Snowpiercer in order to avoid certain contaminants and all of that stuff. So he starts collecting samples, and while that's happening, we are seeing that there's a bit of a struggle for leadership between Layton and Josie. The chain of command isn't perfect, even though it's been 6 months. And then again, there are a limited number of people on Snowpiercer, so tensions are high. And yeah, Layton is trying to joke with Ben as he's trying to collect samples, and Josie is like, "Stop it, Layton! You're distracting him." So while that's happening, of course, the train is still running hot, and Alex is trying to keep it from melting, and Bess is there as well, helping out. And this is where Alex is like, you know what, Ben needs to come back because we can't really stay here. We move in order to vent heat. So if we continue stopping, the train is going to melt. And then everyone talks about the data points and all of the data they have been collecting over the 6 months. And even Bess is like, is this new place going to be a failure to you? And Layton is like, hey, we can't make any assumptions right now. We don't have enough data. So trust the science, trust Melanie. And Bess is like, okay, if you say so. So yeah, the train is continuing to burn up, and Alex just wants Ben to come back, and she's like, "Ben, you need to come back now, or else the train is going to overheat, and we won't be able to move again. And we have like what 10 or 12 minutes." And Ben is like, "You know what? There's still time. You can restart it and all of that stuff." And they're talking in their engineer lingo, and then it falls on Layton because yeah, Layton is going to decide whether or not Ben should come back. And Layton ends up siding with Ben, and he's like, "You know what, you still have time, Ben, collect the samples and come back." And Alex is like, "Okay, Layton, I'll try and see how I can keep the train surviving." So it turns out that Bess has also been keeping an eye on Martin, Audrey, and Sykes because they were in Snowpiercer, and I'm like, why is Martin here? So with Martin on Snowpiercer, yeah, Martin's husband is on Big Alice, and so are his two kids, and Audrey is being locked up. Martin is still cooperating. However, we do know that he's working with something with Audrey, and Sykes is cooperating as well. And Audrey is just being bored. She's like, "Why are we stopping? Why aren't we moving?" And Bess, aren't you afraid of what Joseph is going to do to you when he finally catches up? And Bess is like, just be quiet, Audrey. So they're also running out of rations, and yeah, they're all having lunch together. And this is also where Audrey is like, "Hey, Sykes, why are you even helping Bess, huh? Why aren't you resisting and all of that stuff?" And Sykes is like, "Hey, I'm just biding my time and I'm just doing what a POW would do." And Audrey is like, "Mm-hmm." So Ben has collected the samples and he decides to come back. However, as he's walking, he notices that the ground underneath him is giving way. And I'm like, "Ben, be careful, be careful." But he ends up falling into a hole and into a building. And yeah, that's a long fall, and he can't move. Apparently, he's running out of oxygen, and yeah, the signal is weak, so they need to rescue him. So yeah, all of them are talking, and they're talking about what will happen when Wilford finally catches up with them. And this is where Martin's like, "Well, we are going to talk about negotiations," and Sykes is like, "Yeah." And apparently, they're going to negotiate Audrey's release for Zara and the other people on Big Alice. And Audrey's like, "Do you really think that's going to work, huh?" But yeah, before the conversation can continue, Beth gets a call, and yeah, she's told that you need to lock Audrey up and you need to come to the engine room because Ben's in trouble. And yeah, they're trying to connect with Ben, but they can't. And Layton and Josie are like, "You know what? We have to go out. We can't just sit here and let Ben die out there." And yeah, Sykes also notices that the train isn't moving, and she's like, "Is something wrong? Is something wrong?" And Bess is like, "No, just keep an eye on Audrey and Martin. I'll be back. Nothing is wrong." But yeah, surely something is wrong. And Audrey and Martin are like, "You know what? This is the time. This is the moment where we strike." So Layton and Josie are trying to decide who's going to go outside in order to help Ben, while Alex and Bess try to keep Snowpiercer alive. And yeah, Josie isn't taking no for an answer because Josie's like, "I'm going to come with you, Layton." And as these two are preparing themselves to go out, Layton is like, "You know what, Josie? If something happens to both of us, then no one will be available for outside to work outside the train. So I want you to stay back." And Josie is like, "Nah, that's not going to happen. And you know what? Nothing is going to happen to us because I'm going to make sure of it." And as these two are talking, Layton is like, "Well, you could respect the chain of command." And Josie is like, "Chain of command? There's no chain of command. This isn't a warship. This is a life raft that we're all sitting in." And this is also where Josie talks about Melanie's dream, and yeah, as far as Josie is concerned, it wasn't part of her mission to go out and travel the world in order to find some place for humanity to continue life. She just wanted to have justice prevail in Snowpiercer, and all of this thing where Layton is trying to chase Melanie's ghost. Josie isn't a fan of that, but Layton is like, "Hey, we have to believe. We need to believe." So while that's happening, Alex is like, Beth, I think you'll need to be the one who has to pilot the Snowpiercer for now. And Beth is like, why? Because, yeah, the train is heating up, the wires are burning, and Alex has to go and extinguish the flames. And Beth opens up the safety to the door, and there's a little bump, and Josie and Layton end up kissing each other. And I'm like, oh, the feelings that these two still have for each other are complicated. So while that's happening, Zara decides to go up to Mr. Wilford, who has been talking to Ken about someone pilfering. And Ken is enjoying himself. He is enjoying himself too much because he wants to be very strict with the people on Big Alice. And Joseph is like, no, we can't do that. So anyway, Zara comes in, and Zara is like, well, the water pipes are still frozen, and the people aren't getting enough heat. So what can we do? And we can let go of first class. No one is actually in there, and it's all frozen. And Joseph is like, no, I'm not going to let go of first class. I want to show everyone that. My idea for what Snowpiercer can do is it still exists, and we aren't going to let go of first class. And as soon as I catch up with Layton, everything will go back to as it was. And yeah, we will nego. And then Ken is like, well, if we are going to save on resources, why don't we do a culling? Why don't we kill certain people? And Zara's like, what the heck, Ken? And she's like, Joseph, tell him something. And Joseph is like, we won't be losing an arm, we won't be losing people, so we can't just let people go, we can't kill them, because I need Audrey safe back with me. So while that's happening, these two also talk about the resistance. And Ken is like, well, the resistance has its rules. And Joseph is like, you know what, you need to play the game, learn the rules, and change them. So he basically sends Ken out in order to figure out who has been working for the resistance and all of that stuff, and where they're operating from. And then we get a scene where, poor Harvey. He's all, I guess he's all drugged up and everything. But yeah, it's sad. So Pike ends up talking to this woman who has been, I guess, helping the resistance, and Pike is like, "Well, you need to keep doing the job for one more week, and as a treat, I can give you a token for a hot bath, because it turns out that the Water Master is giving out free hot baths for people who have been helping the resistance." And Ken decides to go and talk to Osweiler and LJ, and he's like, you know what, Oz, I need something. I need information. I need a hint, just a thread that I can pull. So can you do that for me? So it turns out that there's this person, I guess his name is Wendell or something, and he's the one who ends up telling Ken that I have heard that the Quartermaster is giving out free hot baths to people who have been helping the resistance. And Ken is like, yep, that works for me. He ends up relaying the information to Joseph. And while that's happening, Joseph is also taking care of Harvey. He's taking care of his injuries. And Joseph is like, hey, Harvey, don't be so sad about the current predicament that you're in. It's just that in order to bring about balance, there has to be chaos as well. So I keep my doggy near you in order to keep you in control, while I send out Ken to do the dirty work. And yeah, he's like, you can't control the unpredictable, Harvey. So I don't like things that when they end up being unpredictable. Ken and his guards end up arresting the Watermaster. And Ken actually ends up sniffing the Watermaster, and he's like, "Yep, he's very clean." And Joseph's like, "Oh, what did you do, Watermaster? What did you do?" And he ends up arresting the woman who was taking a free bath as well. So, however, before that can happen, Root gets gets the message that, you know what, Joseph is hot on the trail, so they need to run. So Root isn't able to take down all of the charts and all of the information that she was working with, because they need to make a quick escape. And Joseph ends up finding her hideout, and he's like, "Who are you, you smart little thing?" And I'm like, "Joseph, it's Root." And I'm looking forward to seeing how Joseph will react when he figures out that it was Root who was doing all of this. So it turns out that in order to help Ruth, they need to hide her in first class, because they're like, you know what, Joseph and his guards won't look in there, because it's way too cold to survive. And as they're walking through first class carriages, Ruth is like, okay, so Ken couldn't even put these things away, and oh, Ruth. So it's a very small space, but it's still warm enough in order for her to not die. And yeah, Root is like, "Thank you, Pike. Send my regards to your resistance." And these two end up flirting as well. And I'm like, you know what? In a weird way, I'm here for it. So Josie and Layton finally end up finding Ben, and he's hurt, and he can't necessarily walk right now, and he's also running low of oxygen, and they need to figure out what to do with him. And Layton is like, you know what? I'll go down there. I'll give Ben some of my oxygen, wake him up, and then we'll sled him back to the train. So while that's happening, Audrey and Martin are like, you know what? The train still hasn't moved, and that they noticed Layton and Josie going out, and they're like, "Yep, this is the moment that we need to strike." So Martin ends up releasing Audrey from her cell, and Sykes is like, "What the heck are you doing, Audrey?" And Audrey is like, "Hey, either you're with me or you're against me. So if you don't want to fight with me or get tased, I advise you to get in the cell." And Sykes does that. So I guess Sykes' loyalty to Joseph has been wavering, and Martin is just doing what he's being told to, because Martin isn't the most yeah, he doesn't necessarily have a spine at this point. And also I kind of understand where he's coming from, because he wants to get back to his husband and his children. So Audrey and Martin are making their way to the engine, and Alex ends up telling Bess that what she needs to do is that she needs to figure out how to connect these wires. And while she's busy doing that, Alex will be the one piloting Snowpiercer, and they're like, "Yep, that's a good plan." So Layton comes down, and he's able to share his own oxygen with Ben, and Ben is like, "Hey, be careful, don't give me too much." And Layton is like, "It'll be fine." And Layton ends up talking to Ben about his surfing and how he likes surfing and all of that stuff in order to keep him alive. And before they can start the train, I think the train has started. Oh yeah, my bad. The train has started, because it was Bess who ended up starting the train and keeping it at a slow space. Now the plan is that they need to vent off some heat, and then they'll be back for Layton and Josie in like 12 or 15 minutes to pick them up. And when it comes to stopping the train and making it restart again, Alex is having trouble, because Alex is like, "I'm not really sure if I can do this. I'm not really sure if I'm up for it." And Beth tries to calm her down. She's like, "Do what Melanie would do." And Alex is like, "Well, Melanie would already have the answer to this now, wouldn't she?" And then Beth is like, "Well, what would Ben do?" And Alex is like, "Well, he'll pick up a pen and start mansplaining." And Beth is like, "Yeah, do that. Write it down." Which is good advice, because sometimes when you write down calculations, you can kind of find the answer, or a new perspective to come at things. So Alex tries to do that. While that's happening, Martin and Audrey come into the engine room, and yeah, Audrey shuts the hatch door, and it hits Bess, and Bess is down. Bess is down, and she ends up sitting next to Alex, and she's like, "Oh, hey, Alex, how have you been? And you've been avoiding me, right?" And yeah, Alex doesn't really answer, and she's like, Okay, Alex, bring the train back to Daddy." Basically Joseph. So Bess is like, "Well, I can't go back through the hatch because Martin has it blocked." So she ends up finding another way to get to the engine room. So while that's happening, Ben has finally been rescued. He's on the sled, and Layton is like, "Hey Josie, Ben can't make it. He can't stay long outside in his compromised suit. So I need you to start walking towards Snowpiercer for me." And Josie's like, "I'm not going to leave you alone." And Layton is like, "Hey, you aren't leaving me alone. I'll be right back. I'll be right behind you." However, before he can come back up, he notices this glowing light, and he's like, "Okay, what's that?" And I'm like, I'm very interested in as well, because yeah, some people were able to survive outside of Snowpiercer. That's obvious enough at this point. So it turns out that the location that they're in is basically some sort of a nuclear power plant. I could be wrong, but I guess that's what this is, and it's still operating. And we also get this sign that says "Caution, radiation area, contamination area." And Layton is just walking through the corridors. He's noticing everything, and then he ends up entering this room where, yeah, someone has been living in there. We also have a picture, but before he can walk out, he gets attacked by a stranger. And I'm like, "Oh, Layton, the last thing I need is Layton not being able to make it to Snowpiercer and getting stuck in this nuclear plant." But yeah, he is able to win his fight, which is good. However, he is running I can't talk. He's running low on oxygen, and he's losing consciousness. And yeah, he tries to keep himself awake, but to no avail. And then we cut to Snowpiercer, and Audrey is like, Alex, why are you even like this? You don't believe Melanie, right? Melanie is dead. Her science is dead. There's no hope for humanity out there. Our only hope is Wilford. And yeah, Audrey is trying to sway Alex's opinion, her loyalties. But Alex is like, you know what, Audrey, you don't really know. You don't really know what you're talking about. You don't even know all of the data that we have collected. But you can tell that, yeah, Alex is close to being swayed. But she held fast. She held strong in this episode, which I liked. So Bess is able to make her way into the injury room, and she ends up knocking Martin. And she is like, Audrey, I'm going to hit you too. And Audrey is like, no, 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 don't do that. However, while Bess is distracted, Audrey ends up increasing the train speed. And also, before that happens, again, Audrey is like, you know what, increase the train speed, Alex. We need to go back to Wilford. Forget what Melanie told you. Those are just stories that won't do any of us any good. But yeah, Alex is like, no, no, no. I believe in Melanie. And as I said, she ends up accelerating Snowpiercer, and this is where Bess is like, you need to be knocked out. And she ends up knocking down Audrey. And this is where Bess ends up talking to Alex, and Alex is and she is like, don't ruin this for everyone right now, Alex. You're stronger than this. You need to believe in your mom. Your mom was onto something. And Alex is like, yeah, yeah, I understand that. And they end up reversing Snowpiercer to go and pick up Josie and the rest. So Layton is running low on oxygen. He ends up giving him. He ends up reattaching the oxygen pipe, and we get to see the stranger over here on the ground, unconscious. And as he's trying to regain consciousness, Layton has this weird vision where he ends up seeing this place that's starting to regrow, and I guess this is supposed to be the tree of life or something. It's a weird vision. I'm looking forward to seeing how the writers end up handling it all. So yeah, he wakes up. He's also freaked out about what just happened, but at least he knows that there are possibly survivors out there. And then we cut to Josie and Ben finally being able to get on Snowpiercer. And Josie is like, well, Layton isn't behind me, so I need to go out and get him. And Ben is like, no, 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 it's too late. It's too late, Josie. He probably ended up running out of oxygen like a few minutes ago. It's a dead cause. And Josie is like, no, I can't leave him out there. And I'm like, Ben, really, really, you're just going to leave Layton right out there? You aren't even going to try and help him? And again, Josie has been experimented on, and she should be able to survive there longer than Layton and Ben, even if their suits have been compromised. But yeah, this is where Josie ends up noticing Layton, and he's carrying the person that attacked him, the stranger. And Josie is very happy, and I'm like, Josie, you know what? The entire thing between Josie and Ben, I'm not really sure what to make of it, because Ben was very, very willing. He was very willing to not go outside and let Josie rescue Layton. So let's see if that ends up getting developed. That particular interaction between them, and why Ben doesn't want Josie getting hurt. Is he falling for Josie? We don't know. So the episode is coming to an end, and we get to see Harvey working the panels, and I'm not really sure, is Harvey regaining his decision making skills, and he's trying to compromise Joseph's plan. I'm not really sure what this particular scene was supposed to say. And then we cut to LJ and Oz, and they're just happy being able to work in the night car and being under Wilford's protection. And Oz is like, well, I always wanted a girlfriend, and these two kiss, and I'm like, oh, Oz, really, really, a girlfriend, but also with LJ and with Oz being queer, it kind of make I think supposed to be bisexual, right? Or something. He's supposed to be something. I'm not really sure, especially because of what he was doing back in season number one, which was very toxic. It wasn't the most healthy, but it did show us what kind of sexuality Oz has. I guess he just likes people he likes. He's just attracted. He just wants what he wants, kind of like Joseph in a sense. But anyway, these two kiss, and I'm like, oh, Oz, you couldn't find yourself another woman or another man, really? You really needed to hook up with LJ? But I guess these two are broken characters. and they don't necessarily have anyone for support right now. So it turns out that because Joseph can't kill people, yeah, he just can't. Because at first I was like, is Joseph going to kill the water monster and the woman that was helping the resistance? But no, because he isn't killing people, that doesn't mean he can't punish them. And yeah, Ken is enjoying himself. And the punishment is that because these two were stealing resources from everyone in order to get hot baths, they need to be dirtied. And Pike is there as well. And the woman is like, hey, don't worry, it was worth it. All of this is worth in order to help the resistance. So the resistance is still going strong. And while the punishment is happening, Joseph isn't there because he's at the clinic, and yeah, they are running certain analysis on a pregnant Zara, and the needle be and whatever that's inside the needle being injected. I have a feeling that Zara's kid is being experimented on, and maybe he's going to be a person who doesn't feel a lot of cold as soon as they're born. I'm not really sure what's happening there because I do think that experiments are happening. So the episode is coming to a close, and we get to see the stranger, the woman who ended up attacking Layton, and Layton ends up rescuing the person. And I'm like, wow, Layton really carried this woman all the way to the train, even though he was running low on oxygen. Okay, okay. So she's still alive, and the episode ends with Layton wondering about what the heck he saw back then, regarding his vision, about I guess the tree of life, and all of that stuff. And this is where the episode ends. And if I end up doing a written review this for the Geek Theory, the link to my written review will be down in the comment section below as soon as the review is published. I really enjoyed the premiere episode, and of course I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen next because Melanie is still alive. I really think that Melanie is still alive. But yeah, let me know what you thought down in the comment section below. And until next time, stay happy, stay safe, stay blessed. See you guys later. Bye.